We're going to be talking to Pastor Stephen Anderson here in just a moment. Here are the headlines. Tempe pastor cleared in checkpoint confrontation. News 5. Pastor files civil suit against Border Patrol. That's out of My Fox Phoenix. Here's another one. Pastor acquitted Interstate 8 checkpoint incident. So we'll be discussing all of that with him in a moment from Arizona. But first, dealing with high treason by the federal government. And I've had members of Congress on, I've had sheriffs on who agree this is treason or borders on treason. It also violates the 9th Amendment, as well as the 11th. The First Amendment they passed after the first 10 said foreign powers or corporations cannot induce the federal government to sue a state or individual on behalf of a foreign power or individual. And who does the federal government say they're suing on behalf of? The illegal aliens. The illegal aliens, ladies and gentlemen, that are turning Arizona into a police state. The crime is the highest in the country for kidnapping and carjacking now, even going past Los Angeles. The majority of people in the county jails in that area are illegal aliens. They can use any alias they want, operate however they want. And then meanwhile, we've caught the Border Patrol under federal orders harassing Hispanic, white, black, and Asian citizens who are clearly citizens. And they put these checkpoints 10 miles, 50 miles, 80 miles, under federal regulations, in some cases 100 miles, like in Vermont and other areas, where they search citizens and wave the illegals through. Pastor Anderson's driving through. They walk over and say, the dog alerted on drugs. He said, there was no dog. Bring it out. They said, no. Drug him out of his car, beat him up really bad on video, and then charged him. You got to love how they charge you with resisting them when they're beating you. And look, I know the Border Patrol have got some of the toughest jobs. I actually know some Border Patrol agents, and I mean to tell you, it's tough. They're outnumbered, outgunned. They're not allowed to, have high-powered weapons to defend themselves. They're being killed. And I have some reports here dealing with this, where it's saying record suicides by Border Patrol agents. Border Patrol sees rise in suicides. Texas U.S. Border Patrol agents are killing themselves, same thing in Arizona, in greater numbers after nearly 4 years without one suicide. Records obtained by the Associated Press show that at least 15 agents have taken their own lives since February 2008, the largest spike in suicides the agency has seen in the last 20 years. It's unclear exactly why the men ended their lives. Few left notes. The federal officials insist the deaths have nothing to do with the agency or its increased volatility on the U.S.-Mexican border. Yeah, it has nothing to do with that. Continuing here, and this is what's really serious. This is Cyber News Service. Arizona Sheriff. Border Patrol has retreated from parts of border because it's, quote, too dangerous. Sheriff Larry Denver of Cochise County, Arizona, one of the 4 Arizona counties contiguous with the U.S.-Mexican border, said Friday that the U.S. Border Patrol has pulled back from parts of the border and has neighboring counties because manning those areas has become too dangerous. And the feds, of course, a month ago put up signs saying, don't go into these areas for citizens, national parks, state parks, major highways. It's too dangerous. So this country is being conquered by the drug cartels and the Mexican troops. He says, and you frankly have Border Patrolmen, and I know this from talking to Border Patrol agents, who will not allow their agents to work on the border because it's too dangerous. Denver told CNS News in a videotaped interview. Now, what kind of message is that, for crying out loud? And if you dare pull over a drunk driving illegal, and when they ask for the ID, they're illegal, you don't dare take them to jail. But citizens you can beat the hell out of, and nobody gets in trouble. Meanwhile, U.S. may sue Arizona Sheriff Arpaio for not cooperating in investigation. And they're also trying to sue him for enforcing immigration laws. And you can say what you want about Arpaio, but he is enforcing the law. The federal government is giving awards to 860-plus cities. When I saw Vicente Fox do it 5 years ago in Austin, it's in my mini-film. It's an expanded extra of my film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. It's called Battle for the Republic. It's an 18-minute, 17-minute film where we show Vicente Fox giving awards to Wells Fargo, the city of Austin, and the state for accepting consular matricula cards that are as fake as something you get in a Cracker Jack box and not enforcing against illegals. When cops see a citizen, they're told, take the gloves off. When they see an illegal, get down on your knees, lick boots. So federal investigation of controversial Arizona sheriff known for tough immigration enforcement has intensified in recent days, escalating the conflict between Obama administration and officials in the border state. Justice Department officials in Washington have issued a rare threat to sue Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio if he does not cooperate with their investigation of whether he discriminates against Hispanics. The civil rights inquiry is one of two that target the man who calls himself America's toughest sheriff. A federal grand jury in Phoenix is examining whether Arpaio has used his power to investigate and intimidate political opponents, whether his office misappropriated government money, sources say. So they're now persecuting local elected police, local elective sheriffs, he's not the only one, who are trying to defend this country from a lawless crime wave. Now, I want to go to our guest, Pastor Steven Anderson. And again, here's the headline: Tempe pastor cleared in checkpoint confrontation. AP, a jury has acquitted Tempe pastor charged with failing to obey officers' instructions as U.S. border checkpoint near Yuma. The jury also cleared Steven Anderson of the Faithful Word Baptist Church of obstructing a highway during the April 2009 incident at the Interstate 8 checkpoint. They had him pulled off. Both charges are misdemeanors. A Border Patrol agent questioned Anderson about his citizenship, but he refused to answer, saying it was his constitutional right to remain silent. Yeah, you have to pull someone over for speeding, broken tail light, weaving. You have to have probable cause, which the Arizona law said. You have to have first contact for something else. You don't just stop all the traffic and demand to search vehicles. And they wanted to search his vehicle. It's all on video. We'll play some of that in the background for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers while he's talking. You can watch the full audio at Infowars.com. And they drug him out and beat the living daylights out of him. So we now go to Pastor Steven Anderson. Pastor, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You got a lot more courage than most people. You stood up to them for your Fourth and Fifth Amendment. You wouldn't answer their questions after they tried to do the fake alert with the dog. Then you stood up, went to court, faced the music, won, and you're suing them. If more people did this, the Bill of Rights will be alive and well. Pastor Anderson, we appreciate you being a champion of liberty. Recap what happened in the whole saga and the latest developments.
Sure, I'll just quickly recap what happened. Basically, I pulled up to the checkpoint, and they're stopping every single person. And they asked me if I was a U.S. citizen. I just asked them if I was free to leave. They ended up coming up with, about a minute later, well, this dog alerted to your vehicle, and so we have to search you, therefore you can't leave. And there was a standoff for about an hour and 15 minutes of me just standing my ground.
And you pointed out that the dog did not alert on you.
I told them that I did not believe that the dog alerted, and I asked them to bring the dog back out and show me or provide some evidence, which they refused to do. After an hour or so, the state police show up, tell me I'm under arrest. They asked for the dog to be brought out, too, because when I explained it to them, they thought that was pretty reasonable. The Border Patrol refused to bring the dog back out. They broke out my windows, tasered me, maliciously shoved my face in broken glass, and I had to go to the hospital, get 11 stitches, spend the night in jail for these two misdemeanor charges that they trumped up, which the jury found me not guilty of both. Now, an interesting thing that came out in the trial was that they brought in an expert witness that actually had taken part in the training of this particular dog, and he was an expert on both DPS and Border Patrol canines, and he stated that after watching the video that the dog did not alert, but that it was just on the verge of alerting or on the fringe. It was about to alert or thinking about alerting, but that an alert would have consisted of the dog sitting down by the vehicle, which it never sat down.
Well, the Border Patrol, I want you to go over this some more, it has more, from what I've read, more professional dogs. They don't just give them biscuits every time they false alert as a pretext to search. But a lot of state police, a lot of local police are like Roscoe Pico trained. They get Flash out of the car. Flash gets a biscuit every time he alerts, and they just use it to search everybody's cars and get around the Fourth Amendment and probable cause. But the expert in the trial said that the dog, from the video, appeared to begin to think about alerting, but didn't alert.
Exactly right, and that was the prosecutor's witness. We did not call any witnesses. All we did was cross-examine the state's witnesses, and their own witness explained that the dog was on the verge of alerting, but that it did not fully alert, it did not technically alert, which, of course, they said over and over, the dog alerted, the dog alerted. That was their pretext for searching me, and And it turned out that that's why they didn't want to bring the dog back out, because they weren't confident that it was going to alert, because
by the way,
never alerted.
You're like Paul from the Bible. You don't just have a church. You're a construction company guy. You're a construction worker. So you told me previously you're driving through these all the time. They know you.
Well, I've driven through over 300 times. I'm not sure if they knew me or not, because I've never seen the same guy twice, because they cycle them through these checkpoints, and I've literally been through over 300 times. I'm not exaggerating, and yet I've never seen the same agent twice. So I don't really know whether they'd heard my reputation from YouTube or whatever, but I'm not really sure.
Do you think this was retribution, that they were persecuting you? Because you'd posted a whole bunch of YouTube videos of you arguing and saying no successfully previously, correct?
Right, and they did say to me while I was there in the Border Patrol trailer, after they'd beaten me and my face was bloodied up, they said, well, you didn't win this time. You're not going to put this on YouTube because we won this time. And they were kind of rubbing my nose in it, as it were. So,
well, let's talk about that, because watching the video from their own surveillance camera, I see them swinging a baton, jumping on you. Some of it then happens behind the car. But how long did they beat you? How specifically did they assault you with deadly weapons?
The main assault that did the most damage to me was that while I was being tasered for over 18 seconds, while that taser was paralyzing me and putting me in hellish pain, one of the Border Patrol agents, I believe it was Agent Spoonamore, according to the reports, grabbed my head and just shoved it into the broken glass shards that were still on the door frame. And I have some pictures to prove that, where you just see my door frame and there's just a ton of blood in the shape of my head in one spot.
Well, we've got the videos of you after it, cuts all over, blood all over your clothes. But watching the video, after it cuts from your camera, when they taser you, it cuts out. It appears one of them standing over you, swinging some type of a baton.
I don't know if they swung anything at me, but I know that after they put me on the ground, that one of them was stepping on my head with his boot, and he called that, quote, controlling my head. So he had his foot on my head with what felt like all of his weight while I was being tasered.
Yeah, a lot of times, especially with this TSA people, not just here but in Canada, they will jump on the back of your neck with their knees, and the neck breaks, and then you get a dead man, a dead woman, and they say, oh, we don't know why they died, their neck's broken. These men and women need to understand that jumping on someone with your knee can kill them.
Absolutely, and I'm just thankful to God that I'm alive, and that I made it through the whole thing with the damage that I did instead of worse. But another interesting thing that came out in the trial was that these guys were put on the stand and they kept lying on the stand, and then we showed the jury the video proving that they were lying. And I was just thinking to myself, if I didn't have this video, I would have been found guilty, because the video was the only way we could prove that the testimony that they were giving was lies. The video showed what really happened. And, for example, the reason that I was cleared of resisting an order is because the police never told me to move my car to secondary. But he got on the witness stand and kept saying, I told him to move his car. I told him to move his car. And in reality, he never did, and the video proved that. So you have to take a video camera everywhere you go, apparently, these days, because they'll just get up and lie. Well, that brings up the next issue. 12 states are misapplying the wiretapping law. For those that don't know, wiretapping is going up to somebody's house, jacking into their phone, videotaping somebody through their windows. But when you're in public, there's no perception of privacy. That's how they put up cameras on poles, videotaping us. Now, that's an issue. The citizens supposedly run the government, so we can decide to remove those. But that's how they claim they can put up microphones and cameras on, street corners. But now they're charging people all over the nation for videotaping police from hundreds of yards away when they shoot somebody in the back, when they beat up a college kid for no reason. Because in every case, you go look at the police report, it'll lie about the victim, and then they charge you. And so they're really scared of video cameras being used and turned back against them.